So my name is Atau Tanaka. I'm professor at Goldsmiths, and as Alan mentioned, I'm one of the investigators, the researchers in the Human Data Interaction Network. But just before I get into that, this is the last event that Music Hackspace does here at Somerset House Studios. They were in residency here for 3 years, but it's not the last event, right? Because the next event will probably take place at Goldsmiths. We're very happy to announce that Jean-Baptiste, Dr. Thiebaud, is in fact now visiting fellow in the EV research group at Goldsmiths, and that Music Hackspace, as a community music technology organization, will be in residency at Goldsmiths. So we'll be tying together the kind of research that we do in this area and the music community and industry activities that Music Hackspace does. So hopefully this will be a real win-win for students, for graduates, artists, and academics. So, and that's in fact a way to get into talking about the HDI. Alan introduced the network as a whole. Today's workshop is about music, art, and culture. So it's just important for you to know what the other workshops are about. Here we are in the community of practitioners, artists, musicians, and researchers who are involved in this domain. But HDI as a whole, if some of those concepts seem pretty high level, it's because the other 7 themes that we have running include urban planning, mental health, ethics, etc. So it's within that we've slotted the creative industries as one of the themes. And of all those mugshots that you saw, my colleagues, the investigators on the network, each of them is responsible for a theme. And I'm the one who's been tasked with dealing with creative industries and culture. So that's the reason for today's workshop. If you're tweeting, here are the relevant tweet handles that you can refer to. HDI Network is a really important one to keep track of if you want to follow what this network does and what the different opportunities, including funding, that it may bring. We'll talk more about that at the end of the session. So today is a workshop about music, art, and culture. Human data interaction is this abstract term. I think we're more used to hearing about not 3 letters, but 2 letters, AI, right? It's in the news, right? The other 2 letters that some people use is ML, machine learning. So these are all forms, okay, of the ways that we as humans interact with data. And therein lies our acronym for this network, HDI. Okay? And it's a nice way to talk about it without using the AI word, because it seems to be overused these days. But let's be part of the problem and just use it. Well, I mean, it's hard to avoid the term these days, and it's been used in many different guises. And in the area of art and music, it's now everywhere. 2 years ago, when we set out to write the project, to say, okay, let's think about the ethics of AI, the way that AI is being used in culture, there was less of this activity. The buzz was just on the rise. And so we were thinking, okay, this workshop will be one of the first events on music and AI, art and AI in London. Well, the time that it takes us academics to get our act together and get the funding and organize a workshop, well, there's been a major exhibition at the Barbican, you know, it's just everywhere now. But we're not the Johnny-come-latelys. We are the ones who've been thinking about this, and that's why to think of it in terms of HDI terms, and we'll get to that, will allow us to think about this robustly, okay? But as many of you have known or perhaps been, there was a major exhibition of art and artificial intelligence at the Barbican just this spring, More Than Human. And more recently, just this month in Linz, Austria, at the major media art festival, Ars Electronica in Linz, they had an AIX music section of their program, okay? And as you know, this is not all, it's everywhere. It's springing up. The Ugly Duck community-run space in London Bridge has AI in their program this season. So it goes from the high-profile international venues all the way down to our community arts organizations now. It's a buzz, okay? And it's a buzz that also, obviously, the corporations are leading. And companies like Google are making very, very interesting technologies available to creative practitioners. So as some of you may know, with Google's TensorFlow technologies. Okay? The Magenta project allows, okay, exploration and the role of machine learning in the creative process. This is straight from their website. Okay? And it's with that, that as we've seen, all sorts of visual things, whether we call it art or not, variations on Van Gogh. Is it art? Is it eye candy? We're not going to get into those black hole discussions too much here, I hope, today, but they do happen, okay? They are facilitated by technologies like Magenta, okay? And music as well, okay? So these technologies are being used more and more for the creation of creative content. It's also being used in our daily consumption of it. Spotify has a very successful service called the Discover Weekly system that uses modeling of your listening habits to propose new tracks that you can listen to. Okay? And it's been covered by the press, but they don't tout it too much. It's just there, and it works pretty well from the people I've heard who use it. Okay. But also, companies like Spotify are getting into the music creation space. And it's an old friend, Francois Pachet, with whom I worked with at Sony, and who was actually going to speak here today until Spotify told him he couldn't. So he's in Stockholm in a corporate meeting right now and sends his apologies. But this is the kind of discussion we wanted to get into. Francois is a pioneer in AI-generated music. So there are newspaper articles of, okay, is Spotify going to get rid of musicians with robot music in the way that Uber is trying to get rid of its drivers with self-driving cars? Okay? That starts to get into maybe some of the issues that we might talk about here. Okay? And again, once again, back to the Barbican, we have, in the performance area, more and more use of AI algorithms to create virtual idols and virtual performers, whether it's virtual J-pop idols or Yona, who is actually making the rounds as an artificial performer. She's going to the Mutech Festival in Canada, a leading electronic music festival now. So we can't ignore these effects, okay? And the resources are out there, whether we're users of TensorFlow or things like ImageNet. So, I mean, this is just a morning troll of the stuff I know what's going on. So tomorrow, at the Photographers Gallery in London, is a 10th anniversary party of the ImageNet data bank, okay? A massive image data set, okay, that's been being built up over 10 years. It's openly accessible, and it has been used by artists like Kate Crawford and the scientist Trevor Paglen, okay, in an exhibition that's currently running now in Milan. Okay. Now, interestingly, they use ImageNet, but as we might have heard, some of these data sets have problems. Okay? They might actually create inadvertent cultural profiling and so forth. And in fact, if you read through this, it says, and this is just now 2 days ago, right? On September 18th, the researchers who created ImageNet have announced a project to address the problems in their data set. It's just one sentence. It doesn't say much. But if you're tracking this field, the antennas go up and you say, okay, we sort of know what the problems are. We've been hearing about them here and there. They get into your artwork, okay? And so then questions of agency and accountability that Alan mentioned become even more important for us as creative practitioners. So obviously this is an emerging area for research. And so we have journals like Frontiers, a leading scientific peer-reviewed journal that has created an area for music and AI, okay, run by Alexander Bonici and Roger Dannenberg, who's one of the pioneers of computer music. Okay? So it's out there in the scientific research field. It's also out there in an increasingly critical landscape. We have the cultural anthropologist of music, Georgina Bourne, who I also wanted to get to speak here. Okay? But she's stuck in Denmark finishing her fellowship, so she actually couldn't make it down today. She could have made tomorrow. Today's her last day in Denmark, so she sends her apologies. But I attended and I was part of a workshop she organized 4 months ago now, in Aarhus, on music and artificial intelligence, the past, futures, opportunities, and risks, bringing a cultural anthropological critical view to this field. So that's sort of my sort of instant, spontaneous snapshot of where we are today. And so what we'd like to do is to bring that all into this reading of human data interaction. And so the key words that Alan pointed out, legibility, agency, negotiability. So legibility, can you read it? What does this mean if we're making music with these technologies? What does this mean if we're making art with these technologies? Does it need to be legible to the gallery viewer or not? Does it need to be legible to me as the author or not? I don't think there's a right answer to this, but it becomes an important concept, okay, to think about when we're working with these technologies. Agency. Who has agency? What is agency? The ability to act. Okay? Is it human agency or is it machine agency? What is the interaction between these agencies or these agents? Okay? And negotiability. Can we negotiate the terms in which these automated processes take place? Who is accountable? Okay? Is it the person who's got the data set, or is it you, the artist, who uses that data set? Okay? And what are the lines of negotiation between spectatorship, authorship, and then those people who hold the data? Okay? So if we think about these key terms, legibility, agency, and negotiability, how do these terms map to what we do in art and music? If we're new to the field, these are things we might want to think about. It's not just, oh, hey, wow, this is amazing AI technology. I want to use it and create some images. And that's what basically got us to the Van Gogh eye candy. That was the first round of, wow, let's see what TensorFlow can do. But now let's think a little bit more deeply, okay, about what these processes might imply. Okay? So I hope that these three terms give us a kind of critical lens, okay, through which we can imagine more meaningful creative projects using artificial intelligence and machine learning. So the program for today, as you see, is jam-packed, so I'll get off quickly. We've got several, we're bringing together different audiences here. So in the room, I'm talking about you with these 3 bullet points. I think we have an interesting mix of artists and practitioners. We have academics, where clearly it's an academic-driven network, but we are here in a community space. So we've got artists, we've got the academics, we've got members of the music hack space community. About half of you will make presentations of different forms. We've got 3 keynotes from notable people in the field. We have roundtable discussions to get conversations going with others in the field. We have some student presentations of recent graduation projects, and we have buzz talks, these super fast 1-minute presentations by those who registered their interest in this workshop. So we've got the full list, and then there are those of you who are here to see and to check things out. Okay? At the very end, there will be drinks, so stick around. But just before we release the drinks, we're going to talk to you about money. And there is going to be a call for funding coming out of this, and Alan will be back on stage to describe that to us. And the drinks will provide us a chance in the back room to see some technology demos. This is all very loosely organized. So if you've come and you've got your laptop and you want to show some stuff that you've been working on, please feel free to set up back there and share with us what you do. Okay? And we'll all have that around a nice, friendly round of drinks. Okay? Thank you very much. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce our first keynote speaker from the Royal College of Art, Eleni Ikaniadou.